The world of the ancient Egyptians was diverse and enigmatic, filled with countless wonders and beliefs, which were intimately intertwined with the nature around them. Of particular interest is the vast Egyptian pantheon, hundreds and hundreds of diverse gods and goddesses, protective spirits and guardian animals, all formed an enormous web of deities. But, as in all pantheons, there are those gods who are above others, creator gods, bringers of life, and kings above all others. And one of those gods was Amon. Welcome to the Myths and Curiosities channel. Already leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any notifications. Amon was the king of the gods, the creator of life, and was always one of the main deities of ancient Egypt. He sat at the top of the pantheon. In the vastness that is the Egyptian pantheon, which has well over 1,500 deities, Amon stands out as one of the most important and powerful gods. In ancient Egyptian belief, Amon was originally part of the Ogdoad, a group of 8 primordial deities. Amon emerged from the primordial watery abyss, the so-called Nu, or Nun, and from it created the world, and is as such a creator god. Amon's depictions were almost always universally the same in his original form. He is presented as a tall man with a pointed pharaonic beard and wearing 2 tall plumes on his head. In his hands, he holds the scepter and ankh. The scepter was used to display dominance and power, while the ankh symbolizes life. Amon's name was an ancient Egyptian written as Jamin and has been transliterated in many forms, usually as Ammon or Hammon. This name is translated as invisible or the hidden one, emphasizing the mysterious and enigmatic nature of Amon. This also connects to his facet of being the invisible god of air and wind, or his role as the one who emerged from the primordial waters, as he was later portrayed with blue skin to symbolize this. Amon had a consort, Amunet, a primordial goddess. In ancient Egyptian belief, it is likely that Amunet was not a deity of her own, but rather a different face of Amon himself, a dualistic complement to her role in the pantheon. Even so, some important pyramid texts mention Amon and Amunet together, for example, the pyramid text for 46 BC which states, "O Amon and Amunet, you pairs of gods, who have united the gods with their shadow." We can see Amon portrayed in several distinct forms alongside his usual human form. One of them is the goose. This gives Amon the epithet Great Screamer, and connects him with the primordial goose, the one who laid the egg of the world and whose cry was the first sound. Another form was Kamutef, one who completed his moment, a ram-headed serpent, or Kamutef, a ram-headed lion. Another well-attested form of Amon was that of a cryosphinx, a ram-headed sphinx. This connected him with fertility. Other times he was portrayed as a lion, a monkey, a frog-headed human, and so on. Historically, Amon was not always prominently worshipped in Egypt. His cult grew in importance with ongoing political developments. One of the first events that made Amon even more popular happened around the time of the 11th dynasty, approximately 2130 to 1990 BC. The dynasty that came from Thebes, known as the Wazit by the ancient Egyptians, brought out their favorite deities, chief among which was Amon. A good idea of this is the historical names of some pharaohs and rulers, who often incorporated Amon's name into their own. For example, the founder of the 12th dynasty, 1991 to 1802 BC, named Amon-ra, god Amon is the first. Later, when the 17th Theban royal dynasty finally expelled the Hyksos conquerors from Egypt, their victory was dedicated to Amon, the supreme god, and again his popularity increased. There were several important monumental temples erected in Amon's glory. One of them was the famous Karnak Temple. This magnificent complex is considered to be the largest temple complex ever built by humans. And the centerpiece of this complex is the Great Temple of Amon. Another temple was that of today's Deir al-Medina. Located on the western banks of the Nile, it was built by Ramesses II. And the third is the Luxor Temple, originally built around 1400 BC. Amon had another facet, being named Amenemop or Amon of Opet. One of the unique pages of ancient Egyptian history was directly related to the cult of Amon, and it was the period when the cult of this deity experienced its greatest crisis. This period became known as the Athenian heresy and began in the first dynasty of the New Kingdom, 18th of ancient Egypt. It occurred when Pharaoh Akhenaten tried to diminish the growing power of the Temple of Amun and its priests, basing their religious worship solely on Aten, a deity symbolized by the sun disk. Akhenaten's name means effective for Aten. He built a monotheistic religion based on the worship of Aten. The heresy ended with the death of Pharaoh Akhenaten, and his name was blotted out, and all his changes undone. His son and heir, who called himself Tutankhamun, the living image of Aten, was persuaded to change his own name to Tutankhamun, the living image of Amun. This god attained the greatest significance after the Hyksos invaders were driven out, and when his form was amalgamated with the sun deity Ra, and so he became known as amon-ra, or amon-ra. Aside from Osiris, amon-ra is the most mentioned Egyptian deity. In this form, it is referred to as the Lord of Truth, Father of the gods, Creator of men, Creator of all animals, Lord of the things that are, Creator of the staff of life. His form was represented with the solar circle of Ra, and many votive stelae record him as a revered god and protector of the poor and unfortunate. This was one of the reasons why he was glorified by the expulsion of the Hyksos invaders, as the Egyptians considered themselves unhappy and relieved by Amun. One of these votive inscriptions for the poor is just one example of many similar writings. Amon, who comes to the voice of the poor afflicted, who gives breath to the wretched. You are Amon, the Lord of the silent, who comes by the voice of the poor. When I call to you in my distress, you come and rescue me. Although the servant was willing to do evil, the Lord is willing to forgive. The Lord of Thebes does not spend a whole day angry, his wrath passes in a moment. His breath comes back to us in mercy. Another amalgamated form of Amon is that of Amon-Min, his symbiosis with Min, the god of fertility. Like Amun-Min, the form displayed was largely that of Min, a black-faced man covered in white shrouds and phallus erect, holding a flail symbolizing dominion. The worship of Amun spread to other places outside the borders of Egypt, and he became revered by many different cultures, in some places even more fervently than in Egypt. Good examples of this were Nubia and its kingdom of Kush, where a form of Amun became a national deity. Here he was known as Amen and Amani, and had a widespread cult with priestly centers in Meroe and Nobatia, but that is another story. In fact, the entire system of the kingdom was decided by an oracle of Amun. This oracle was apparently in contact with the god, and could decide on matters of the highest importance, such as choosing rulers, demanding wars, and military expeditions. Another important place of Amun worship was the Siwa oasis. Ancient Greece also worshipped deity, such as Amon, or Zeus Amon. It is mentioned that the people of Cyrene and Sparta went to the Siwa oasis and consulted the oracle there, more than any other Greek citizen. Over time, he also received an amalgamated form, being known as Zeus Amon, and combined with the main Greek deity Zeus. In this form, he had the classic human representation of Zeus, albeit with ram's horns. Amun was greatly revered by the Greeks, so much so that even Alexander the Great came into contact with this deity when he traveled to the solitary oracle at Siwa after the Battle of Issus. The solitary oracle told him that he was a divine person and a legitimate pharaoh of Egypt and the son of Amon. Some scholars claim that Alexander thereafter considered himself divine. Even though the cult of Amun was significant until the 20th dynasty, and its priestly cult was at times very powerful, the worship of Amun gradually began to weaken, especially after the social unrest that followed the 20th dynasty, which lasted from approximately 1190–1077 BC. Lower and Upper Egypt again became increasingly divided, and Thebes lost its importance, and with it the city's chief deity, Amun. Amun's worship remained at its height with the Nubian kings, who revered him long afterward. But throughout the rest of Egypt, Amun was worshipped with far less zeal, and was somewhat overtaken by the cults of Isis and Osiris. Amun and his cult provide a crucial glimpse into the complex religious beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. From Nubia to Egypt, this important god found his way, strengthening the hearts and faith of the needy and pious, becoming the protector of the poor and the guardian of the oppressed. Tell me here in the comments what you think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. See you in the next video.